Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I try not to be late for anything ever, and today was just absolutely a freaking mess. So we are starting 5 minutes later than usual, but thank you so much to everyone who's here. Yeah, I post the question in the chat of like, what are you working on today? What are you doing in preparation for this big fall writing season? And yeah, I'm gonna go through and look at some answers. But if you just dropped in, let me know what you're working on. This session, not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna be grading, but I'm also gonna try to get at least like 500 words into Project Crips, which is my gothic adult fantasy. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna do today. And we'll chat a little bit and then go into sprints like usual. I feel like I'm kind of out of practice though, because it's been a minute. It has seriously been a minute because it's so hard for me to get the scheduling for these because I just am like you know what? I won't get into it. My life has been a wreck lately, but I won't get into it. Mm. Okay. So we got people working on their first draft, some world building, some outlining. So I guess people are starting to look into Preptober kind of things. Um, First draft starting tomorrow, some last minute outlining. Alyssa's here. Hey, Alyssa, working on reading through the first 15 chapters and potentially reordering some things. That's so exciting. Revising a chapter in their second draft. Oh, I forgot I could click on these. Wow, it really has been a minute. Um, Outlined a new version of my Act 2 opener, so today I'm rereading some of it and I'm writing out the major beats as simply as possible because there's so much heavy lifting to do exposition-wise. Nice. Seems very thoughtful. Hi, Brielle. Oh my gosh. It's so good to see you here. Revising chapter 10 today and have boba in hand, so I'm excited. I wish I had boba in hand. There's like not good boba anywhere near me, but I'm happy for you, even though I'm jealous. Um, Someone's going to start a new short story today. I got the notification and did a happy dance. I'm glad. I wasn't sure if anyone would show up for a Monday kind of early evening stream, but we'll see if people like trickle in and stuff like that. Um, More Pathtober than Preptober. Ooh, I don't really know what the difference is. If someone wants to inform me, I'd love that. Hey, Ebony. Hopefully getting through some unknown/hard scenes for my fantasy first draft and maybe some homework too. I'm with you there. I have homework and then I have grading tests. So I might prioritize at least the grading because grades are due apparently tomorrow, which I didn't know, but Ebony says it's early morning for me, still half asleep. Yeah, I figured like the time zone difference would work out for some people. I'm sorry that it's so early for you though. I know that's inconvenient. It's an alternative to NaNoWriMo to avoid the whole AI thing. Okay, so this is something I wasn't sure about. I didn't know if Preptober was like their official terminology, but this is the first time hearing Pathtober, so that is really good. I'm gonna look into that actually because I was like unsure, and a couple of other people who make content like I do. Like the thing with NaNoWriMo is absolutely I don't agree with any of the choices they've been doing lately, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But like, you know, I have some of my own opinions on the stuff that they've been doing. But at the same time, I love the idea of everyone writing together during November and planning together during October just as like community building thing. And honestly, like to me, those events are not super affiliated with the organization most of the time. Like you can still write a book in November and have it not be part of that. Um, yeah, is NaNoWriMo a trademark branded thing that belongs to them? I don't know if it belongs to them, but it is a company, like obviously because they've been doing stuff. They're like a nonprofit organization. I don't know how that goes into like trademarking and stuff, but obviously like I don't know. For people who disagree with certain decisions they've made recently, wanting to avoid that terminology makes a lot of sense. The furry community is doing it during October to avoid the stress of holidays affecting our writing. That's fair, yeah. I mean, you can just have any month of the year be a good writing month. For me, October is always so just hectic. November also tends to be hectic, but not usually for holiday reasons. I found an alternative monthly challenge called the Rough Draft Challenge if you want to look into it. Ooh, that does sound interesting. On Instagram, there's a Pathfinder collective doing an alternative from November to January. Okay, fun. Kind of like how for artists there's Inktober and that's been going on for 20 years. I don't think anyone's made a claim to that. Yeah, so like, I was part of online art community for a good chunk of time. Inktober isn't it's just a thing that people do, right? So I kind of in my head associate, like, National Novel Writing Month with Inktober. Like, they're very similar in that it's just something that people do during that time of year. Um, so it's, like, hard it's been weird for me to disconnect them. Um, but yeah, that's good to know that there's alternatives. Honestly, um, what was I gonna say? Oh, honestly, for me, it's like I can't even participate in like a November writing thing this year anyway, just because like I don't really have a ton of time to write, if I'm being honest. So yeah. But okay. So I'm gonna pull this up. Since it's a smaller crowd today, we can be a little bit more efficient with things. And oop, nope. Oop, okay. No, I don't like that one. I like this one. Let's do our little Pomodoro. Does 25 minutes work for everyone? Give me a little quick, like, yes or no. I'm also gonna change the theme. I like that. Okay, great. Let's do a 25-minute first session. And if you want to drop your starting word count in the chat, you can do that if you want to. You're okay, good. So we'll do 25 minutes, drop your starting word count in the chat if you feel like it, and then you can drop your final word count after the sprint. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. 5 minutes? How far did everyone get? I have, I think, uh, 4 more tests to grade. So I'm almost there. And let's see what people said. Everyone's starting out at a different spot with their word counts, which is really nice. Let me know if what your final word count for that session was, and we'll jump right into another one soon. I don't want to dilly-dally too much. Oh, Adam's here. Hey, Adam. And we have Wolfcat Gamer Girl with a question for the group. Um, they do this in every live, but they want to know if anyone here is a Swiftie, which I think is like a Taylor Swift fan. I'm sorry, I'm elderly. Personally, I'm not. I don't know. I liked some of her older songs, like OG Taylor Swift stuff when I was younger, but I don't really listen to her now. But I do understand that she's very important to a lot of people. So yeah, sound off if you're a Swiftie. And we have draft 2 for me. Lynn, do you have any tips for the editing stages? What have you learned can really speed it up, especially the revisions? So for me, I'm very much of the philosophy that nothing is gonna make it faster other than like getting faster at revisions, which takes time and practice. I think understanding your own personal weaknesses as a writer is really helpful, but again, that's something that comes with time and practice. Um, mm, Sorry, I always take a drink of water when I'm thinking. So there's that. There's also, how do I word this? Like coming up with a game plan for yourself is also very helpful, even if it's just like, for me, a to-do list is really nice extrinsic motivation. So that is something that I like to give myself when I'm doing revisions, be like, here are my main focuses, here's what I want to change. But again, that requires kind of like knowing what you need to change in a draft before you start going through it. But yeah, hope that helps. Ooh, we have 588 words, outlined 3 chapters, sent 1.5 emails. Yeah, I think I just graded like 11 things, so that's nice. Personally, I am team Rihanna. Do they have beef? Taylor Swift and Rihanna? They're like not even in the same realm of existence to me. 769 words. 400 words from Alyssa, very nice. Currently writing the outlines for the separate regions of my world. Ooh, fun. Only managed to reach around 237 words. Mainly just sat and stared at the screen until I got an idea. Hey, it's all part of the process. 254 words with technical difficulties. I want to finish grading these tests so I can be like with you guys in the writing trenches. It's been really difficult for me to motivate myself lately, even though I am currently working on a story that I'm really excited about and that I'm really eager to like write. It's almost like it's one of those stories where I wish someone else were writing it so I could just read it now. But I also know that I want to be the one to write it for like vanity reasons and also because the characters and the themes and just like the story as a whole is something that I'm really, it's personal to me in a lot of ways. Um so like yeah, I want to write it, but also I just want it to be done already so I can revise it. Um Jasmine says, "Hey Lynn." Hi Jasmine, it's good to see you. Ooh. That's a tough one. When I critique anything, I get very long-winded. JD, how are the youths on their tests? They're okay. They're doing great, actually. I'm proud of them. I can see that they're actually, like, learning stuff from the class, but it's not my class, like, I'm not teaching them. I'm basically kind of a TA. Technically, I'm, like, a practicum student, so I'm there to learn from observation before I do my full-time student teaching. But yeah, I really love being in that class. I love being with them. What class is this for? I teach earth, or not I teach. I'm part of an earth science classroom right now at a high school, which I didn't take earth science in high school. I actually didn't take like much science at all. I did the bare minimum of science, which is ironic because then I went on to get a bio degree and really fell in love with it. Yeah, honestly, I think my like journey through science has been one of the most like important parts of my life. But so my entire goal is to just make students as excited about science as I am. It's a weird thing because I, like, don't express this side of myself much on YouTube because it's mostly, like, a writing-centered space for me, but I love science, like, science is so important to me. Absolutely love it. I wanna teach it forever, I wanna keep learning about it forever. Um, but yeah, it's weird because this is a side of science that I have no context for, so sometimes I'm just, like, sitting there and learning about earth science along with all the students. At what point do you think purple prose goes too far from a literary perspective? And thanks for all your answers and help. Anytime. I love answering questions. So purple prose for me is like not real almost. I love purple prose. I have a very high tolerance for purple prose or what people would call purple prose. I love poetic figurative language. I love long-winded sentences. I love silly metaphors and like very descriptive writing. I think for me, as someone with a high tolerance, when it goes overboard, it's when it's very repetitive. So sentences that are describing the same thing over and over again. And when it's like being utilized ineffectively, which is to say that even though I love descriptive writing, not every sentence can be super descriptive. It's the same thing with like show versus tell, which I think is where a lot of like purple prose comes from, is people kind of get fixated on, oh, I can't tell, so I have to show and show and show. Showing writing is very exhausting to read if you're reading quite a bit of it. So you need to have the balance between like more simplistic utilitarian sentences and more like prosy, voicey sentences. And usually when you're doing prose, like purple prose type sentences and sections and paragraphs, it's to really hone in a point. It's you're emphasizing whatever you're describing because it's important. So knowing when to use that as an emphasis point versus when to like be a little bit more conservative with your writing is a very important kind of learned skill slash instinct that you pick up on over time. But that being said, I like purple prose. I'm very forgiving on it as long as it's not very, very, very overly repetitive. I think I can usually give it a pass, but everyone is different. Someone is asking, "Did you take creative writing in high school?" No, I did not. I've never taken a writing class, like a formal sit-down writing class. I don't know if it was offered at my high school. I think it maybe if it was offered, it was like no, it was offered at my middle school I went to, or the junior high, and it was every year in junior high or every semester or quarter, whatever it was split up into, you would get a randomly assigned elective. And creative writing was one of those randomly assigned electives, and I was never assigned it. So I never took creative writing. Also did the bare minimum science and math, keep the numbers away from me. Yes, I didn't take like my school, I feel like had a very competitive AP science and math track because it was a tracked school, but I was much more into like the arts. So I was a theater kid and like an arts kid. Um, I think in high school, I was like, "I wanna work in politics." I don't know why. But, yeah, I just ended up not taking those classes, and then I went to college and was like, "I wanna be a veterinarian." Obviously, that didn't pan out, and then just started taking more and more science classes, and it was amazing. And now I also tutor math. I'm not very good at it, I feel bad. My earth science teacher in high school brought elk tongue soup to school, which he hunted personally and said he'd give an A to anyone who tried it. That sounds like Midwestern things. Is earth science like rocks? Kind of. It's sometimes rocks, but it's not like, "What rock is this?" so much as seismology and, like, continental shift, but it's also weather, so all of the parts of our planet Earth and the things that make it the way it is. It's kinda like that, from my understanding. I feel like science is also great to incorporate into world building. I'm honestly interested in every subject but maths. LOL, it's so cool. Yeah, science is fantastic for world building. Even having like a very baseline knowledge of ecology and how like environments work and biomes work and like food webs work, trophic cascades, all that stuff is going to give you a leg up because it'll help you build a very realistic natural environment that you can base your world off of. I would have said I'm a math hater also, but I kind of like math now. I don't know why. Currently doing some world building for a new story. Do you think it's important to have a map before starting a first draft? I'm a map enjoyer. I think if it's like a world where like the geography, like if you're writing a fantasy story where multiple countries come into play, like it's multiple multi POV, and they're in different locations and there's like a lot of movement. Like imagine Game of Thrones without a map. I would not be able to comprehend what is going on. So if you're writing a story where distance is plot relevant or geography is plot relevant, I would definitely say make a, like just a rudimentary map or make it in an app or something. That's something I've done. I kind of like doing that. It doesn't have to be that serious, but just kind of vaguely knowing like how far apart things are, the shapes of different countries, the relative size of different nations, whatever you need to do, like roads, oceans. That's really helpful because it's also like a reference point for yourself. Like if you ever need to situate yourself again, you can just look back at that map. So it's nice to have, but it doesn't have to be that serious because, it's just for you. What are your best tips for getting published in lit mags? I feel like I'm the wrong person to ask because I have not sold a story all year. Um, I think just like submitting very selectively because first of all, Chill Subs is my number one, my like the website of my heart. Free organizational tool. It lists all the literary magazines and you can sort by which ones are open and which ones accept your genre, word count, etc. Fantastic resource. And it has a tracker so you know who you're out to and when. For getting published, I'd say your best bet is to really do your research and look at the magazine's like prior stories and stuff like that and kind of get a sense for like what they're looking for and if that fits the story you're submitting to them or potentially submitting, and just be very very selective because a lot of like the literary magazines that pay especially will have no simultaneous submissions, so that means you can really only submit to one magazine at a time. So it's just like good to really take your time, do your research, try to find out like which magazine is the most likely um to publish your work. Any current reads? I was reading Song of the Six Realms by Judy I. Lin, and I actually returned it early because like Libby only gives you 14 days of the book. Um, over me. But yeah, it was coming up and I felt like I just couldn't get through it in time. Other than that, I have been reading Sorrowland by River Solomon. I'm such a slow reader. And Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. And I recently got Inferno's Air, but I think Tiffany Wong. I don't 100% remember the author's name. But yeah, so I've been reading a lot of arcs again. I've been stuck on trying to get my exposition down. Wow, I can't talk. For a year. What are your best tips for writing the intro of the book? So for exposition specifically, this is something where usually what I'll do if it works. For example, with the opening of Moths, I had to introduce the magic system in a way that's like engaging. So I just had the main character use magic in like a small way in the first couple pages. And as she was using it, I like kind of explained it. But the intro of your book overall, I guess think about your theme, and most of the time you're going to end up starting with character. But I also like to have like I love describing setting, so I usually open with setting. I just enjoy setting. Oh my gosh, I'm so behind. Wait. Um, oh, the person who asked about purple prose said, I'm just like Lynn and I am too tolerating for purple prose, but I'm not sure what others feel about them. I think it's like, I don't know. You gotta just make yourself happy. And I think when you see egregious purple prose that's like detrimental to the reading experience, you know it. But otherwise, like everyone has such a different tolerance for purple prose. Some people really, really can't stand any like literary leaning figurative language for some reason. I mean, to each their own. I shouldn't say for some reason. So you can't like worry about pleasing everyone so much. Do you ever get imposter syndrome writing with trends like dark academia? For me, I have a really cool idea for a Greek mythology story, but I fear that it might not get picked up because it's popular. Uh, so with like mods, that dark academia trend genuinely had not hit by the time that I first came up with the idea. It's just a label that I started to use to describe it later. Um, So I've not felt imposter syndrome about that. I felt anxiety that Dark Academia is already dead and, mods will never get published, but, that's a different thing. Um, I think you just have to write what you like and, like, write what makes you happy because the other thing with trends is that they are circular, so if your goal is, for example, traditional publishing or even self-publishing and you wanna hit the market in a big way, you can, like, hold on to that story until that trend starts to pick up again. Alyssa asks, "What are your thoughts on flashbacks? I'm trying to fit one in about 3 chapters in, but it feels cheap. Thoughts on how to incorporate them authentically?" Ooh, that's actually such a good question. I think just, like, contextualizing it in a way that makes sense. For me, a flashback is usually written in as an answer to something, like, it should be an answer to a question that the reader has been, like, burning to have answered for a really long time. So, in Moths, there's, like, a couple of flashback scenes or, like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, they're flashback scenes, but they're all, like, specifically primed to answer a question that the reader should have about the characters, about the situation, the world. So I guess, like, having that build up makes it feel more earned and more authentic, and also the immediate context of it, like, have you written this flashback in as a moment that the character's having, or is it, like, a scene break or a separate chapter? Um, so I think framing it is really important and also just having it be, like, something that the readers want to see. I think someone had a question about, like, sociology and world building, and this is exactly it. Sociology and world building is, like, social structure, social rules, social status, social groups. Yeah, that kinda thing. Brielle says, "Going off that flashback question, how do you feel about dreams in books? Do you feel like they're overused?" I This is another one where I'm like, I know it when I see it. I know when it's well utilized when I see it, but it's kind of hard to articulate. Let me try to do that. So, for dreams, personally, I like to keep them very brief. Like, when I think about dreams in real life, I'm a very vivid dreamer. It's weird because, like, my partner does not dream at all, basically, which is wild to me, but I almost always have a stress dream every time I go to bed, but I don't usually remember the entire thing. I remember, like, key points or key images or, like, moments when I wake up. So I kind of would go that route instead of, like, describing the dream from beginning to end, if that makes sense. Like, whatever reason this character is having the dream, whether it's a stress dream or, like, I don't know what other kinds of dreams there are, a prophetic dream, I would just describe small, brief bits, flashes, versus the entire thing. Because then you kind of get into the territory of, like, why is this dream a scene? I feel like dreams, most of the time, and I'm not a prescriptivist writing advice person, so I'm not going to say all the time, there's definitely contexts in which this cannot be the case, but dreams should not be their own scenes. Um, but they should bring up new questions. They should affect the character's psyche in some way upon waking up. So I guess there's two components, like, don't make the dream a separate scene if you can help it, especially if it doesn't, like, work with your story. And the second part of that is that it should have some sort of effect on the character when they wake up. Otherwise, like, why would you describe it? But yeah, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if they're overused. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of dreams in books lately, but that might just be me not paying attention. Okay, just a couple more, and then we're going to go into sprint number 2. What's your advice on pacing while still writing? Should you start over if it's too fast or slow, or should I wait until draft 2? I So there's, like, macro pacing and micro pacing. Macro pacing is, like, the pacing of your scene beats and your story as a whole. I would work on that during the first draft and try to, like, figure that out during the first draft. Micro pacing is more like line level pacing. Like, a scene can move too quickly because, you're just writing all the dialogue first, and that's okay. And that can be more of a draft 2 thing. But if it's a macro pacing issue, I find that that's really, really difficult to fix because usually it involves like adding scenes or taking away scenes or rewriting scenes entirely. So I would try to get that figured out, like re-outline if you have to, figure out what's going on and work on that. Okay, so this question is, will you have any more writing sprints this month? For me, it's September 30th. So I will definitely try to do at least one in October. My schedule is just, it's rancid, guys. My schedule is so bad, but yeah, I do want to do some more in October. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into sprint number 2. Okay, give me a quick yes or no in chat if you are ready. All right, let's go. Right. I actually finished my grading, so I got to go in and write a little bit. I got like 100 words in. I only had like 5 minutes to write, but I went from 5:27 to 6:38. Not too shabby. 393 words, and I started 5 minutes late. Nice. Um, I'm like having a little bit of trouble with the opening of this book. I've like rewritten it 1,000 times, and I recently completely reformulated the entire story and pitch and everything. So I'm starting from scratch, which you guys will hear about in a vlog that I plan to make soon. But now I'm like, I don't know how to open this because I'm really excited for Act 2 and like the latter half of Act 1 and Act 3, but not this opening part where I have to do a bunch of housekeeping. So yeah, it's been taking me a while to get through this part. Someone got another 3 or Chloe got another 3 chapters outlined, making great progress. Just did the Enneagram test for one of my characters. Kind of fun to learn about their personality type this way. What was their Enneagram? I think mine is that's the numbers. Wait, hold on. I always forget. Crap. Oh, yeah, I got or my Enneagram is 8 wing 7. If anyone knows what that means. Yes, an errand down for me. I have like a million more to do. But you know what? We take our wins where we can get them. Alyssa says, "Good stuff. Ended up picking apart my flashback and distributing it throughout a conversation to help with framing." Nice. That's a good solution. That's like a very strong solution, I feel like. Oh my gosh, 875 words in 25 minutes. Don't know how y'all do it. That is amazing. Looks like around like 300 for most people. I feel the same about my opening. It is a slog, and I just wanna get past chapter 5, please. Yeah, it's sometimes I'm like, "Does that mean that I need to start the story sooner?" But I think that the buildup, because 'cause I'm writing, like, adult fantasy with and it's very gothic inspired, I'm not calling it gothic fantasy quite yet. So atmosphere is so important, and you need to build that, not without anything happening, but, like, less stuff needs to happen. Like, the plot can't fully kick off until you've established some of that atmosphere and some of that, like, foreboding feeling. At least for me. I might be wrong. Oh my gosh, Brielle broke 82,000. That's amazing. I'm so glad that people are doing well. The openings are always so difficult. I hate openings so much. I am usually an opening enjoyer. Like, I usually write the opening and then nothing else if you kinda get my drift, but for this one, it's just kind of a different experience, which is really interesting. It's so interesting how writing is different literally every time. Contemplating the approach to my book series romance subplots in terms of their themes and nuances. I'm actually watching Lady and the Tramp during the sprints. It makes sense in context. Nice. Yeah, if you wanna talk more about that, that would be cool. I feel like, especially, like, over a series, a romance subplot is really interesting. I figured out my opening for my current whip, and it's changed how I look at them. From now on, every opening I write has to feel like this for now. I'll probably change how I feel in 5 years. Yeah. Like, sometimes something works so well, but then for me, I'm like, "Oh, this isn't actually applicable to the other stuff I wanna write," because I tend to write, like, really different things. I don't know. But I think the opening is so important. But then, like, as long as your opening gets that buy-in from the reader, like, gets them invested in the story initially, I feel like most people don't remember the opening by the time they finish the book. Like, their overall opinion of the book is so it's so based off, like, the ending and how it wraps up and how they see the story as a whole versus the opening. Not that you should necessarily write with just readers in mind, but yeah. I just kinda have random chapters in my folder. This is so me, especially once I get the opening nailed down, I know for a fact I'm just gonna be writing random chapters and deleting random chapters and experimenting. Even though I literally have an outline for this book, I'm still gonna do that, and it just can't be helped. Does anyone feel comfortable sharing their opening line? I will also pose that question to everyone. Also, sorry, I should have mentioned that has to be the last sprint because I need to eat. So that was the last 25-minute sprint. If you guys feel up to it, we can do like a 10-minute one just because I also just started writing and I kind of want to get some more words in. Um, I don't want to share my opening line because it is very specific language and I have become a little bit more um protective of like my line level writing, so I'm not sharing that as much. But if anyone wants to share their opening line, feel free. Um, I was trying to write the epilogue to my current whip, but the words were not wording, so I had to change to a different whip. Fair. Sometimes you just gotta get that change of pace. Chaos says my opening line, "Don't look in the pantry," I told myself over and over as I shoveled cereal into my mouth. Oh, interesting. Robin says, "I'm so down for another 10-minute sprint." Okay, I'll set up a 10-minute sprint and we can get to that when we get to it. Yeah, I don't want to like completely be done, but I definitely don't have time for another 25-minute sprint. Adam says, honestly, with this story, small town vibes. Ooh, I love small town vibes. Many of the relationships are founded on social games and stigmas. Interesting. There's a lot of matchmaking by gossipy S words, but the real love runs into conflict. I love that. My opening line, or Robin's opening line. On the fourth lunar covenant, since his mind had splintered, Lucith was alone. I love that name. That's a good fantasy name. Definitely subject to change, and it's not great without the context. But my first line is Eve could not. Eve's. I never know how to pronounce that name. Eve. Eves could not help but wince as the rickety old car hit a sharp rock on the road. My opening line, Blythe winces when the earring finally goes through. The final stab of pain and the relief from it are equally heady. Ooh, nice. These are also good. My opening line, Cyrus had seen it all, the beginning of the world and its end. This is so interesting because I feel like almost everyone has their main character's name in the opening line. I do not have my main character's name in my opening line. Am I missing something? Um, Opening line in my current chapter, my day is turning out to be a rotting pile of S word, and I haven't even had breakfast yet. Nice. To my sisters, the battlefield is nothing more than a harvest land to feast upon. Freshly felled warriors are fruit ripe for the picking, their flesh soft and delicate as a tomato whose skin is split. Nice. That's so descriptive. I love that. My opening line, or sorry, AJ's opening line, Alistair had severely underestimated how much he would have to die to be loved. Ooh, that's intriguing. Really fast, what was that resource you said that tells you current literary magazines taking subs? Yes, I'm gonna I'm gonna share my screen because I like literally not sponsored or anything, but I love this thing. So this is Chill Subs. It is free. Here's like the landing page. Or no, the landing page is just the magazine browser, and you can go like open for submissions, no fee. Wait, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Pays, themed calls, like whatever you want to do. And it's best to make an account because you can use this tracker in tools and that tracks all your submissions. You just have to enter them in, and then you can go by genre. You can do fiction and flash fiction, subgenre, so like magazines that take everything, magazines that are literary. There's like fantasy, fairy tales and folklore, gothic, all sorts of things. Vibe is like this is more the vibe of the magazine. So there's like quirky kind of, online magazines. Very fancy, very impressive, very not fast, like the New Yorker. Top tier stuff, not Paris Review, but okay. Yeah, so you can kinda get like a temperature reading on how intimidating the magazine is, which I really like. And yeah, it's just the best tool ever. And it's completely free. And this is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I just use this constantly. Okay. I hope that was helpful for anyone who wants to submit short fiction at any point in their lives. And now I'm going to do the 10-minute sprint because we're all here to write. Okay. 10-minute sprint is imminent. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. I'll go back and answer any additional questions if we have any. But yeah, 10 minutes and then I'm probably going to sign off pretty quickly. Okay? Good? Great. Let's go. 10-minute sprint. Okay, I just wrote like a big thing and then deleted it, so I'm pretty sure I didn't get any words in. Let's see. Wait. Um, well, 6:54. Okay, I got uh 16 words. Yeah, let me know how everyone else did. It looks like we have a question in chat. I'm just going to answer questions for like the next couple minutes and then we'll be done for tonight. So thank you to everyone who came. Feel free to drop your writing questions in chat. I love answering them. AJ asked, does anyone have any advice on how to finish like a big summary for your story? Because I want to divide everything into chapters and then POVs and then start writing, but I've been struggling thus far. Um, I'm not sure if you mean like a synopsis. Robin asks the same clarifying question, like a full manuscript summary. That is, you wouldn't be able to divide everything into chapters. That's more of like just an overview, like a bird's eye view of the entire plot. If you're just looking to do like a chapter by chapter summary outline, then I would just start by going chapter by chapter and maybe you can split those chapters up into acts. I'm kind of not sure if you have a book written yet or not, so any clarification would be great. Brielle got 100. Yeah, my brain is also fried. No worries. I am so tired. Emily finished the chapter they were working on. 120 words, 40 words. Nice. Almost to chapter 5. Alyssa also says brain equals death. I know, I push you guys hard. Do you have any advice for moving into Act 2 from your opening without it seeming too sudden? Um, I think it's just like the natural course that your story would be taking, because usually Act 1 and Act 2 technically are supposed to be divided by the break into two, which is it means nothing. Usually some sort of like catalytic event occurs that sets off, the main beats of the story because Act 2 is supposed to be fun and games. Again, prescriptivist writing advice for the birds. But that transition can definitely be tricky. I would say, I mean, it will really depend on your specific case, but follow the like logical next step. I always say that if you're having trouble coming up with the next scene, then starting with the consequences of the previous scene is always a good place to start. So most scenes should have context, choice, and consequence. The choice made in that scene will lead to the consequences that come up in the next scene. And yeah, someone got almost 1,500 words today. That is amazing, Josephine. That is awesome. Even if it's not good, fix it in post. Um, I for a previous whip, I wrote my outline in whimsical bullet points. Instead of Abby visits the rogue witch, I wrote a witch is bleeding, twice spurned. It worked for that whip. I like that. Like, kind of make it creative. You don't have to do something so rote and formulaic. AJ says I don't have a book written yet. This is my first, and I have like 3 chapters so far. So yeah, if you want to, for your first book especially, there's nothing wrong with looking at something like 3 act structure or Save the Cat and kind of getting a handle on what stories can be shaped like. Um, my only issue with that is that personally, when I first started doing things like that, it was really boring. So, yeah, like coming up with bullet points to fulfill every specific beat in Save the Cat, not very fun. Um, so I would start by just breaking it up into acts, be like, here are the main things that happen in what would be the first third of this book. Here's the main things that would happen in what would be the second third and the last third. And then kind of break it down into scenes or chapters. For me, chapter breaks are very intuitive. Some scenes are multiple chapters, some scenes are like half a chapter. So I think thinking of it as scenes is a little bit better or like more intuitive maybe than chapter breaks because chapter breaks kind of happen when they happen. But yeah, Anna says hi. Robin is giving some very sound advice. Are using chapter titles uncool now? I personally love them, and all my chapters are titled after songs. I don't think they're uncool. I think if it works, it works. Personally, I don't use them just because I suck at coming up with them. I'm bad at titles. I'm bad at chapter titles. But if you like them and if you like coming up with them, that more power to you. Russell says, I'm using chapter names in my historical fiction. All names appear in the text of the chapters, so it's relevant. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly, yeah. Okay. Ooh, Lillian broke 20K. Congratulations. So I think that's going to be it for me tonight. If there's any last minute questions, I will answer them. But thank you so much to everyone for coming to the stream. Thank you so much to everyone who watched on the replay. I hope you had a nice time. Wow, my glasses reflection is very bad. And I hope to do another one, at least one, hopefully like two is the goal in October. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I was so glad that I was able to squeeze this in, even though I was a little bit late. But thank you so much for participating, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.